On this episode, we'll discuss how churches can support volunteers to help them succeed. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast, the show that is dedicated to inspiring leaders and empowering healthy churches. We are your hosts, Kendall Connor and Jessica Moore. How are you today, Jess?
Good morning. I'm good, Kendall. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited to jump into another episode today.
Yeah, me too. Let's do it.
It's going to be a really good one. You know that I'm super passionate about how churches can, set their volunteers up for success. We've talked about volunteers a lot, but I feel like today is going to be a great one just to kind of continue this conversation and kind of take it from a different angle.
Yeah, very timely too. I feel like now is when you need those volunteers more than ever as year end picks up and your services get more full. And
Yes.
yeah, this should be good.
Well, I want to tell everyone about our guest that we have joining us today. It's going to be a great episode. We have the privilege of having Stephanie Lippi with us. And if you have never connected with her before, let me tell you all about her. Stephanie is the owner of Poppy Seed Inspirations, which is an event management and speaking and writing firm. And she also serves as the conference director for Church Facilities Conference and Expo. It's also known as CFX. Over the course of her life, she's volunteered on church worship and tech teams. She's also served as a women's ministry director for a time and several other areas of ministry. So she's super knowledgeable, got a lot of experience in ministry. And she also is currently on a launch team for a church plant called the Bridge Co. Church, which I just love. I've been a part of a church plant for 11 years. And so I love meeting folks that are involved in church planners, and just hearing about their journey. So that's going to be really cool. But she says that she's passionate about serving church ministry teams. And this is the unique angle by helping them find new efficiencies in their workflows and kind of discovering how they can optimize their skill sets for that maximum ministry impact. And I love that she kind of says she takes it through the lens of servant leadership practices. A lot of buzzwords that we have there, but I think we're going to get a lot out of this conversation.
Yes.
And I'm excited to jump into it.
Well, you know how I feel about efficiency, so I'm very excited as well. I feel like there's going to be things that we can take even into our homes, definitely into our ministries, but this will be great.
This is going to be really good. Today, we're going to talk all about how we can support those volunteers, setting them up for success, helping them succeed as a church leader. So we're going to jump in just a second. But before we do, I'd like to encourage all of our listeners today to hit that follow button wherever you're enjoying our show. We want to get you subscribed. We want to make sure that you stay in the loop as we continue to release these conversations. That's the best way you can do it so that you don't miss a thing. We don't want them to miss out, do we, Jess?
We absolutely don't, y'all. And please, I'd encourage you, check out our YouTube. I think it's really fun to actually see the conversations. We have so much fun on there. So if you haven't done that yet, take a minute today maybe and poke around over it on our YouTube page.
Absolutely.
That would make us happy. And then leave us a comment or something. We'd love to hear from you.
And you get to see these smiling faces. And I just think, why would you not want to?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Well, look, without further ado, I want to jump into our conversation. Let's welcome Stephanie to the show. How are you there, Stephanie?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. Yeah, thank you for taking time to chat with us today.
Thank you for inviting me to come. I'm grateful and honored to just be able to speak the words of Jesus in the way I need to speak them today. So
I love that right out of the gate. And again, we were just talking about watching on YouTube as opposed to listening. When you watch on YouTube, you get to see this awesome green background that you have in this room that you're recording in. I love that. I love that green.
Yeah, her background is so beautiful, y'all. It almost looks like it's not real. It is real, but it looks like so beautiful and cozy. I love it.
It is. That's part of my desire. That's kind of how I approach everything, creating an environment where you just feel welcome and loved and seen. And so if I can do it here in my home office, I'm going to do it here. If I can do it in my job, if I can do it in my ministry, that's what I'm going to do. So
I love that.
I
That's
love
so
that.
great.
I feel like we're getting gold right out of the gate with this. I love that. Well, we always say, we read the public bio when our guests come on, but there's also that side of things that your family and your friends would know about you, maybe that don't make that public bio. Can you tell us anything extra today about you?
Yeah, I play bass guitar. I
That
haven't
Wow.
is
I don't
so cool.
I'm not like a super great guitarist or anything, but, I do love playing bass guitar. I haven't done it in a little while, but enjoy getting back into it, and I'm trying to learn acoustic guitar, so, yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. I'm not
Very
musical at all,
unexpected. I was
so
surprised. That's awesome.
it is. I'm so jealous of anyone who has any musical ability because that just is so not me. I love music, but yeah, I'm not the one that you're gonna call on to play anything except the radio.
Hey, we all have a joyful noise to make unto the Lord, so just
That's
embrace
right.
it,
That's
right?
right.
Joyful, I can guarantee. Will it sound great? I don't know about that. That's
Love it.
awesome. Well, I know that you've spent a lot of time serving in different areas of the church, different areas of ministry. We mentioned in your bio that it's worship, it might be tech, women's ministry, now part of a church plant. I'm just kind of curious. Tell us a little about your journey and kind of what has taught you to have this heart for volunteers.
Yeah. So I grew up in the church. From the moment I was born, my parents were a part of a traveling singing group slash Bible study. And so I was surrounded by spirit-filled people right from
Yeah,
the
Mm,
get-go. And so I kind of just have always been surrounded by people who love serving the Lord, however that looks. So for me, when I think about the difference between volunteering and being paid to do something, for
mm,
whatever that might be,
sure,
when you're getting compensation for something, your your expectations are tied to that compensation, right? Your
sure,
outcomes are kinda tied to that compensation. So not always, but your tendency can be, "I'm gonna work for the paycheck," "I'm gonna work to make sure that I'm getting the money that they're paying me to do because they're paying me to do this."
right.
But when it comes to volunteering, you most likely have a full-time job somewhere else. You might have soccer games or football games that you gotta get your kids to. You've
sure,
got, all these other activities, and so this is taking part of your free time to serve, and the outcomes aren't to receive anything other than the blessings and the joy, and knowing that you're pleasing God by serving Him. That's our spiritual
sure,
act of worship. So
Yeah.
for me, that's the passion behind volunteering. That's the beauty of it and why I enjoy volunteering.
I love that. Good
That's
reminder.
yeah, that is a good reminder, and I just think, I have served on church staffs before. I've served in full-time capacities, part-time capacities. I've been bivocational, and there's been seasons where I've served as just a volunteer. And I think about some of the volunteers in my own church and just think about, the how much heart they can bring. And sometimes I just think like, I do see all of the stressful weeks that they have from their 9 to 5 on top
Mhm.
of taking care of the kiddos and raising families. And then to see kind of that joy that they bring to serving on Sundays and the passion that they bring into it, it does
Mhm,
say a lot about those individuals that are going above and beyond to be able to make that time, doesn't it?
mhm. And I
Yeah.
think that's sorry,
Go ahead,
I think
Stephanie.
that's kind of the beauty of it. That's the joy of, yes, it's honorable and it's great to be full-time staff,
Sure.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
your role in that is to lead the team well,
Yeah.
Um, but if you're a volunteer leader, your role is still to lead the team well. You just have to navigate your time a little differently
Yeah.
than
That's right.
you would if you're full time. And so it's just about balancing your priorities and
Sure.
Mhm.
figuring out, um, whether it's my full time job or if it's my volunteer role. My goal is ultimately to serve the kingdom and to glorify
Mm.
God
Oh, yeah.
through this role. And so if we can all of us look at it from that perspective and remember
Yes.
that. Because I mean I've never been full-time staff at a church, but I have a lot of friends who have, and I know that it can you get tired after a while and it gets hard to keep that vision and remember that. So my encouragement to you is keep running the good race and remember who we're running it for, and
Mm,
Mm.
don't get stuck in the I have to make this happen each week, but I get to be a part of
Yeah.
making this
Get
happen
to
each
do
week.
this.
I will say too, there's a different level of satisfaction, like a soul satisfaction from volunteering,
Mm,
whether it be in your church or truly anywhere, because we
Yeah.
were created to be like Jesus and Jesus served really,
Mhm.
really
right.
well. And so
Right.
there is a different thing that happens in your heart and in your soul when you
Mhm.
do commit that time. Now, to your point, there can be fatigue there. If you're not well recognized also, or if you
Mhm.
feel taken advantage of. And so I
Mhm.
know we're going to dive into that conversation, but um, you know, when you, as a volunteer, as having been on the volunteer side for a long time, there is a different type of soul satisfaction that you get leaving that and walking away from that and saying, like, okay,
Yeah.
Lord, you saw the hard today, you saw the ugly today, you saw the good
Yeah.
today, and it's for you. Yeah.
Mhm.
What a good
Yeah.
reminder. I think about, from your experience, I'm just kind of curious to hear, what do volunteers need most from their leaders in order to succeed? What's your perspective on that?
Volunteers need to be seen. Each of us as humans, we need to feel seen, and I think that's when I look back over my journey of different volunteer roles, and even when I look over my journey, period, I have just had this striving and desire to feel seen, and I think each one of us has that desire, whether we realize it or
Yes.
not. And if your leadership sees you, and what I
Hmm.
mean by that is they recognize the value of what you bring to the team, but they also see you as a human being. They desire to have relationship with you and I get to know
Mm,
like how's your family doing? Like what's going on in your life? How's your job? Being able to feel seen as a person with real things happening in your life as
Mm.
well as making sure that you're available for communication. Like are you supporting your team? That's some of the things that have been my biggest challenges in my lifetime, whether it's
mm,
through corporate work or whether
Hmm.
it's through ministry, is not
yeah.
feeling like people are communicating well enough to me. And
Right.
so if my expectations are heading this direction, but
Hmm.
your expectations are heading this direction, there's not gonna like that there's just issues all over the place when that happens. And so
Sure.
communication and helping people feel seen are, I think, the two. I'm not even gonna say there's, like, one is more than the other, I think they're equal, like, you have to have
Hmm.
both of them to
Yeah.
be able to really be effective.
It's a really good reminder, I feel like, for any leader who's listening to this today that, not only does it make you a better leader, but also maybe just in general a better human, right? A better
Mhm,
human when we're looking to the, as I think it's important that we remember that every person, and you said this, it's important to remember that every person has their own things going on, right?
Hmm.
Every person has, a life. We think about our own lives and our own situations and our own things that we're going through and the million things on our to-do list and our busy schedules. We can see that in ourselves so well, but it also is just so helpful as a leader to look and remember that all of those people who are serving at your church, whether they're an usher or whether they're a greeter or they serve on the band, whatever it may be, each one of those individuals, they have those same things
mhm,
going on. They've got the
mhm,
same busy schedules, they've got their own concerns and worries and stresses and goals, right?
Yeah.
And so just remembering that, helping them to feel seen is as simple as just, checking in on them, right? Just letting them know that you're not just a doer for this
Yes.
mhm.
church, right?
Yeah,
That I care about your spiritual health, that I care about you. And man, it's a good reminder for me today that that's what being a good steward of your volunteers looks like, I think. And you mentioned
Yeah.
communication, right? Communication. What does
yeah.
that look like to be healthy when it comes to volunteers?
I think the first part goes along with what we just talked about with making sure that your team feels seen. It's helping them see you
Mm,
as a human being. So communicating to them, like being authentic in your own leadership with them, I think is the biggest part because that's going to create a foundation of trust that
mm,
you
Yeah.
can't really have with somebody if you're not willing to be authentic.
Love
Um,
that.
and then beyond that, it's
Wow.
making sure that you're explaining what are the expectations each person on
Right.
the team. Like I mentioned earlier, expectations going different directions just causes chaos and mayhem. And
Mm.
if you don't allow people to understand this is what these are what your expectations are. These are what my expectations are of you. Share what your expectations are with me because I want to make sure that
Mhm.
we're on the same page.
Mhm.
And then make sure that the role and the responsibilities are clearly laid out because we're good at making assumptions and then
Mhm.
um, realizing that those assumptions were always just in our brain and we
Yeah.
never communicated
Yeah.
what we were actually thinking.
Yeah, I love that. You kind of spoke to two parts of that, right? So, the relational equity in being authentic builds a foundation for communication. So you establish like who you are, you're the truest version of yourself, and that allows them to then also reciprocate that. So that's like on a relational level, right? Communication, open dialogue, open communication. But then because that's strong, then it's a lot easier to set expectations. And two, just understanding your people. The more you know about your
Mhm.
people because you've opened that door for a relationship, you know that Sally doesn't love kids. Maybe we didn't know that about Sally until we got to know her, but now we do. And so we think, okay, Sally, this probably isn't going to be a happy place for her, right? I don't know why she would have volunteered for kids, but we know she probably needs to be a greeter. Okay. So anyway, moving on, but you've established that relationship so you get to know your people. I think that's so important and um I would say maybe a little bit overlooked depending on the
Mm.
size of your church. It's hard to do that. It is hard and it
Mhm.
takes time to build relationships with people, but to your point, it's a lot harder to I would imagine that it's harder to lose your volunteers if the friendship is there, if the relational equity is
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
They're going to be less likely to just be inconsistent or flaky or leave.
Yeah.
And you're right, it builds that trust. And so that
Yeah,
that trust is a two-way thing. And then you spoke to kind of the more operational side. What are the expectations of this particular role? What is the expectation of, how we, I don't know, execute on operational things? And so
Right.
yeah, that's great. Just wanted to kind of delineate that. I think that foundational relational piece is critical and sometimes overlooked because of time, right? And bandwidth.
It
absolutely.
it gets me thinking too. I mean, like I haven't always been, I was a part of a church plant for or have been a part of a church plant for 11 years and, have done a little bit of I feel like everything throughout this journey. But I can remember very early on, you know, connecting with different people and having this experience of I don't know that small groups have always like my wife and I we lead a small group now and we've built great friendships and relationships that way. But
Mhm.
I struggled with that in the beginning. Where it's always come as a natural place to connect with other people in our church though is serving on a team on a Sunday
Mhm.
morning.
Mhm.
And so, like, volunteering together, there is something special when you can build those relationships as you're doing something together
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
further the kingdom, right? There is something special that comes with it. And, to your point, Jess, yeah, when you're in there and you have those bonding moments, throughout different Sundays and you're working together, there is something special that comes to that. And I feel like it does kind of, help to keep from some of that fatigue.
yeah.
Absolutely, and I think the more that you are able to create those relationships, like, for example, y y why not let your worship team be your small group?
Mhm.
Yes.
Let that be a small group. Then you're
Yeah.
discipling each other while you're
Yes.
also building teamwork to continue to
100%.
to be you bring more excellence to your worship leading and to the tech ministry. And so even just considering ways like that, it doesn't have to be one-on-one time each week
Sure.
with your volunteers, especially to your point, Jessica. If you've got a huge team, you're not going to be able to meet with everybody.
Right,
Mm,
right.
But maybe you've got a few people who you assign to be leads in your team then, and you ask them, "Hey, check in with this group of people."
Right.
Let them be like your team that you're going to make sure that you're working with them and connecting with them, and then maybe we'll do something all together. as a big group. If we're giant or we're a multi-site campus
Right.
church
Yes.
or something like that, and we'll do something once a quarter that's fun, but just encouraging and uplifting. But
Yeah.
it creates that space for people to share ideas,
Mhm.
Yes.
even if their ideas aren't great. But sharing ideas is part of the human process.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
be willing to hear them and think about them and talk about them, and but you're not going to get that freedom to be able to do that if you always have a closed door.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
that gives you a chance, to your point as well, to see, oh, maybe Sally's really not the best with kids, but I know her better, and she's really good at making people feel welcome, which is
Yes.
why I think she would be really great at being a greeter. So I'm going to have a conversation with her because we have a relationship to be able to do that, and I can help her realize, Sally, you are amazing at making people feel welcome. Have you ever
Yes.
considered maybe switching and
Yeah.
becoming a greeter? Because I think
Yeah.
you would make people feel seen when they're walking in the doors.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So to say that in the simplest form, it is by building those relationships with people, them not just being a list of people, a list of volunteers that you have, by having those relationships, you can even help them to find their best
Yeah.
fit, yeah, at
Yeah,
serving in the church.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's kind of how I I think that's why I've served in a lot of different areas. I mean, I
Right.
have things that I'm naturally just drawn to. Music is part of my life, so of course I want to be part of worship teams, and I enjoy it. But sometimes God is calling you somewhere else, and if you're not willing to listen to that, but you've got a relationship with somebody else who's like, "Hey, you're really gifted with this other thing,"
Yeah.
Yes.
starts you thinking, and you're like, "Well, maybe God's calling me to go somewhere else," because
Wow.
Mhm.
it's part of our growth journey too, is not
Yeah.
staying focused on just one area, because sometimes He gives us gifts, and sometimes the testimony that we have requires us to go different places. And if
It's a good
we're
word.
not willing to do that, then we lose out on being able to help people experience Jesus in a way that they can relate to us in,
Mm.
that they might not have been able to experience if we just say, "Nope, I'm gonna stay on the kids ministry, and I don't care if I'm bad with kids. I'm gonna stay here anyway."
Not
Well,
my best example, but yes, we
well, it brings up a good point, Stephanie, and I've heard you talk about this feeling that volunteers can get sometimes of feeling stuck. Leaders can feel
Mhm.
stuck,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of curious. You see these volunteers that they serve faithfully for years, but they still end
Mhm.
up feeling in this place where they just don't know what to do next, or they feel unseen or stuck. And
Mhm.
I'm just kind of curious for the leaders out there, what would you say are some signs that maybe that they can look for that they've got people that are serving maybe faithfully, but they are not in a good place like that? They do feel stuck.
Mhm. I think some of the biggest indicators that you've got someone like that, uh, are they showing up regularly, or are they backing out last minute, or are they,
Mm,
saying, "I can only, instead of serving 3 times a month, I can now only serve once a month."
Mhm.
Um, or when they're showing up, are they giving it their all, or can you tell, like, they're just going through the motions, like, there's something going on. There's
mm,
something
Mhm.
happening there. Um, so from a leadership perspective, those are probably the 2 biggest indicators that I would recommend that you pay attention to. Um, the other one would be, are they closing themselves off? Are they not participating in even conversations at church? Are they taking off as soon as church is over? And that's hard to see sometimes, because you're, if you're busy doing your regular role throughout the week, like,
yeah.
it's hard to see that. Sometimes if you're friends on social media, you might be able to connect, see something if they're posting, or maybe they're not
Mhm.
posting anymore in their regular. There are all these
Mhm.
little indicators that you can just pay attention to, but it
Yeah.
takes it takes effort to see each person and be recognizing what's changed in this person's life. What I'm
Mhm.
seeing, something is different, and then that should spark you to have a conversation with them, to say, "Hey, what's going on? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
That you brought up some really good points, and I think it just again goes back for these leaders. I cannot remember. I was sitting here trying to think about it. There was a quote that someone gave. I mean, it has been very early to when I first started interviewing on the podcast. I'll have to go back and try to give them credit for this quote in the show notes or something. But I remember we had a guest that once said, some of the best leadership they got, advice that they ever got, was to walk slowly through the pews.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
I have held on to that serving in my
mhm,
own church and leading people, because when you get to moving around too quickly on Sundays, when you're running around to do this task and to talk to this person, do all those different things, you miss the subtle things. And I feel like that's kind of what you just mentioned with looking out for these volunteers. Like, how
Yeah.
mhm,
slowing down enough to say, like, how are you really doing? Like,
mhm,
Mhm.
how's everything? Okay, has everything been going well at work? I remember, you shared, that you were looking for a new job. How's that going? Like, being able to slow down and just notice how people are really doing and have some of those deeper conversations, I think is probably one of the best things that you can do for a healthy team.
mhm. Absolutely.
This was something that our leadership for when and where I volunteered did really well. So I was in kids ministry, and Jess is her name, and also, and she would at least I know she came to us over the time that we served probably 4 or 5 times, but she would basically just walk laps. Like, she would stop in one of the classrooms at the service.
Mhm,
I would assume she did this at every service, but we served at the 10 o'clock, and so she would come
Mm,
into our classroom. We would have to get there like 20, 30 minutes early to get the classroom set up and everything. And so Jess would come in and she
mm.
would literally just be. She would sit down while we were kind of setting up and say, Morris, how we doing? Because our kids served with us. And she would ask, like, Noah, my son, Noah, how are you doing, buddy?
mhm,
How's school? And just taking the time to ask us questions and engage. She wasn't in there helping. She was in there sitting. She was in there listening, right? And I think she did that really well. And so if this can become part of your routine, it doesn't necessarily have to require time outside of
yeah,
what you're already committed to. But it was something that was very impactful. And it did build that relationship with us just within the time that we were already there as a family and she was already there as a staff
mhm.
member. So just a thought that it doesn't have to be above and beyond, but it really was very effective.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing that before, and I think that's a beautiful gift that she has, that she has
Mhm, mhm,
blessed others with.
mhm, and
Um,
she had a kiddo, like a 3-year-old, and so he'd come in and, like, run amok while she was doing this, but we didn't. I mean, my kids loved it, so,
yeah.
it can just be
Mhm,
that's the authenticity piece right there,
mhm.
is that she would come in
Yeah.
with her kiddo and knew that, like, there were 3, 4 other people in the room that could handle him so that she could just be still and listen to us, so it was sweet.
I think that's a really great definition. I know a lot of churches use this kind of term, but that's a great definition to me of doing life together. You're
Mhm.
Mm,
doing life together in ministry without
yeah.
Yeah,
actually doing the ministry part, um,
yeah,
but also doing the ministry at the same time.
right.
So I think that's just a really great example of
Mhm,
that. To me, that's a servant leader,
mhm.
who is willing to make sure she's connecting with people on the personal level. I love it.
She
Yes.
very much is, yeah.
Well, you brought up servant leadership, and that can kind of be a buzzword. I feel like that's been a topic of conversation in churches
Mhm.
for a while, but it is so important. What does that look like in the context of leading volunteers? How can leaders balance both serving and leading well?
It starts with doing your own heart checks. Um, I think you have to understand what's going on in your own life that is either helping or hindering your ability to be a leader.
Hmm.
Um, and more than that, that's helping or hindering your ability to be in relationship with Christ.
Mhm,
I just spoke at a women's event recently where we were challenging women, like, are you actually doing heart checks? Do you know what it means to do a heart check? It starts
mm,
with inviting the Holy Spirit in and saying, "Something's wrong, and I don't know what it is. Can you help
mhm,
me figure it out?" Or
Mm,
maybe there's a particular situation that made you feel really happy and joyful or made you feel
yeah.
really upset. Why did I feel this way? And
mhm,
giving the Holy Spirit the opportunity to come in and guide you through those emotions. Where are those emotions coming from? Because if you start with your own heart and making sure that your own heart is in a place where you can actually be authentic with Christ and
mhm.
work through the issues that because let's face it, we're all humans. We've all got our own issues. There's always
Yeah,
Right.
something. that we need to be growing in. Um, so if you're focusing on those things with yourself first, it gives you the chance to practice it and understand how to do that. And then I think you're then able to help your team do that as well. Because if they've got stuff that's holding them back that they're not aware of in their lives,
Yeah.
or that they are aware of, but they have no idea how to work through,
Mhm.
that gives them a chance to start having practical resources to say, okay, it's okay for me to work on this because I see you working on this.
Mhm.
Or you've already proven that this system works. And so I'm
Yeah.
going to give it a try. I'm seeing changes in you. So maybe there'll be changes in me. So
Yeah.
I think it starts with that.
Yes.
Um, and then beyond that, it's paying attention to the gifts and the strengths and the talents that each person has
Yes.
and encouraging them in those, empowering them. Some of the I've had great leaders in my life. I've had leaders who I loved them because God loves them, but they were challenging for me to serve as a
Sure.
leader, as I couldn't connect with them and
Yeah.
I didn't always
Sure.
respect the way that they handled leadership. And this is just in general, not just in the church, just in general.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
but the leaders, whether or not they were realizing they were doing this from a spiritual perspective or not, but the ones who encouraged me the most are the ones who they said, I'm seeing some of these things. I want you to just go with this. You don't need to ask me questions. You don't need to ask permission. Run with it. Do it." And they
Mm.
gave me
Trusted
the
I
you
love
in that
that.
freedom.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They gave me the freedom to learn. They gave me
Mm.
the freedom to
Mhm.
fail, um, even in big ways. But that
Mhm.
failure gave me a chance to learn, okay, so
Yeah.
that really didn't work. Why didn't it work? And then we talked through it. And then we were able to have really great conversations afterwards to be able to say, okay, what if we tried this instead? And brainstorming conversations are beautiful in that context because
Mhm.
on the flip side, I've had leaders who basically told me without coming right out and telling me, your ideas are terrible. You
Mhm.
to not share ideas at all because that's
Mhm.
not what your role is, which
Mm.
is hurtful. I am a
Yeah.
very analytical person with a creative
Sure.
bent. So if I'm not able to use some of that creative, God gives me ideas. God gives you ideas.
Mhm.
Whether
Yeah.
we use them, whether they're the right one or not, let's be willing to talk about them. So I
Sure.
I think I think helping people feel empowered to step into the calling that God has placed on their lives, whether it's in
Mm.
your ministry or somewhere else or personal life, whatever. That's one of the most beautiful things that you can do as a servant leader is
Mhm.
in those capacities.
I love that. And you brought up so many great points. I mean, I just think one of the most beautiful things that we get to do in the church in general, but especially as leaders in the church, is we get to be a part of the journey of someone becoming who
Mm,
God has created them to be, right? You
mhm,
see people come to the
mm,
faith, you see people who get plugged into the body
yeah,
of Christ, and you can kind of see how God will start to use these gifts and abilities that He's put inside of them to use them for
mhm,
building the kingdom. And it's an amazing, beautiful thing that we get to be a part of. But it's even more amazing, right, when we get to show them, to kind of lead them in that way and to help them to
mhm,
find those gifts and to, be able to call out some of those things in them and just see how they can grow and how they can start to help other people. And I think we have to remind ourselves as leaders, is like, this is something that we get to do. This isn't something
mhm,
that
It's an honor.
it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's one of the most beautiful things that we can do is to help other people to find Christ, and then it's even more amazing when we can see them starting to help other people find
mhm.
Christ. What a holy calling, like, what an amazing
Yeah,
thing that we get to be a part of, and it does all come back to taking the position of, like, I'm helping you, let me help you on your journey, like, finding
Right.
those things that God's put inside of them. And it you do have to take it from that position of, I'm here to serve you in this way, and not the position of you're here to serve me, or that kind of thing, right?
mhm,
It's
mhm,
that heart check. Isn't that what you said? Have a heart
Yeah.
check to make sure that you're right with God. first, right? So that you can,
Mhm.
help other people to get closer to God. But we got to have ourselves right first, right?
Mm. I think too, and we talk about this a lot too, but
Mm,
I think there would be a lot of benefit to, first of all, reminding at a top leadership level that this is the culture that we're trying to facilitate within
mm,
our volunteer ministry, right? So it
Mhm.
is so much more than just needing people to do a thing. It is
yes.
an opportunity to help people spiritually grow. And you are in this
Mhm.
role. God has called you to this role to identify gifts and empower people to grow in them.
There it
And
is.
then maybe carefully, thoughtfully, with the relational equity,
Yes.
point people point to things that may not look like Jesus, right? Or
Yes.
areas that need some growth.
Yeah.
And so if that conversation is had, top down leadership to who's managing your volunteer ministry. And then,
Mm,
at a deeper level, the invitation is, hey, we need more than just warm bodies doing stuff.
yes.
Yeah.
If you are in a position where you're wanting to grow in this area, we have a system set up that we are wanting to
Yes.
help you find your gifts and grow in them,
That's it.
Mhm.
and look more like Jesus. And so I think
Mhm.
that's a different ask, right? So you're not
Yeah.
just saying, hey, we need people at the 10 o'clock service to be with the babies. No,
Yes.
no. Like we're looking to pour into anyone who
Yeah.
is willing to be in a classroom with babies.
Yes.
Okay. But also, this is going to be a spiritual growth journey. And,
You're
we want to
loving
lock arms with
Mhm.
you and grow you. That's a completely
Yeah.
different
Yes.
invitation. And I think that that's a really powerful invitation. If that
Yeah.
expectation is set, then these people are coming in with a soft heart saying,
Hmm.
this is great. I would love to be mentored. I would love to be encouraged to look more like Jesus. That
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yes.
And it does speak to
That's
the
it.
honor piece. And also for those people in leadership, there's a different level of accountability there
Yeah.
when you have now voiced, hey, I am taking this leadership role very seriously. And, God help me, literally, as I speak into people and
Yeah.
represent you and
Mhm.
what you want for their
Mhm.
lives. So I
Mhm.
love that so much. That's not how I've ever uh, understood volunteer ministry,
Mhm.
but that should be how it is. I think that's wonderful.
Well, I think it's you have 2 viewpoints. Which direction are you wanting to take your team? And to your point, senior
Yeah.
leadership, which direction are you wanting to take the culture of your church? Is
Mhm.
it all about do the things I ask you to do because that's what I want that and
Sure.
essentially I'm seeing you all as commodities?
Mhm.
Or are you saying, here's the vision. Each of you
Yeah.
has a part to play in it. Let's figure out where your gifts are in creating this vision that our church
That's right.
is coming to be. And
Yeah.
that sees people as
Yes.
children of God.
That's it.
Mhm.
So I think you have to ask yourself, am I creating a church of commodities or a church of children of God?
That's so
So good.
good. Yeah. What I was thinking this whole time as you were talking through that is it's what we want for you, not what we can get from you, right? Having that
Ooh,
position
yeah.
and keeping that soft heart, I think it just
Mhm.
makes such a big difference.
Mhm.
Stephanie, I know something else that you get to do is you get to lead kind of the communication and logistics for these massive events, right? You're a part of these big conferences. Coming from that perspective and speaking from that experience of kind of rallying people together and getting all the things done to accomplish a goal, have you ever seen any systems or structure that can help, teams and individuals feel supported in that?
So it's interesting. To your point, I oversee a large event, and this year, my current boss, he has empowered me. He's been a great leader. He's empowered me to step in to take ownership over more things. Um, so it's and I have it's been really cool getting to see how
Sure.
having more ownership over something works. There's
Mhm.
a lot of responsibility to it. And there's a lot of fear in that, but at the same time, it was building confidence. But we are a small team that puts on a
Yeah.
huge event. So we contract things out to a number of other companies. And so if you think about your volunteer ministries as contracted teams that you're bringing in, hopefully this will help bring in a parallel that makes sense for you.
Sure.
But with each of those groups, it goes back to what I talked about before. We've clearly defined, okay, this particular company, you are helping us with all the logistics on site, with, making sure that the rooms are set up the way they need to be set up, with making
Mhm.
sure that we've got all the AVL equipment in place, that you're communicating with the hotel to make sure that we've got all those things, so that's your role, and they do it really well, and we have great communication. And I know if I have questions about something, I'm gonna go to this person, and they're going to
Mm,
get the answer for me. Um, and then over here, with our marketing team, we've got a marketing agency that works with us. They're amazing to work with,
yeah,
and we've defined these are the things you're helping us with. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I just can't say it enough. Like defining what the roles are, defining what the purpose is, and then
yeah,
keeping those open lines of communication. That's how we're able to put on national events in a
yes.
Mhm.
way that makes people feel seen and loved and welcome when they show up on site.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. They know their part to play, and they can
yeah,
play it well, and then if there's room for growth, then yeah, that's good
yeah,
leadership.
and
Love
we've
that.
made them feel part of our team, like, even though,
Yeah.
we're technically paying them to do this stuff for us, we've made
Yeah.
them feel part of our team because there's
Yes.
relationship.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like that, and there is a lot of parallels, right? The
Mhm.
communication, making sure that they know everything where they're supposed to be and everything that's expected, knowing their roles, right? Having a
Mhm.
volunteer that knows, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm scheduled to do, this is my part to play. But then
Mhm.
also, I love that you said that even though you're not, you know, even though you're not part of your company, that these outside contractors, these vendors, you try to build those relationships, and that there's so much
Absolutely.
parallels with that because people need to feel the vision. They need to feel like they're a part of something. And just feeling welcome is such a big deal.
Mhm.
I love that. There's a lot of parallels there. Stephanie, I know that a lot of churches that they struggle to kind of build that volunteer culture, and that kind of speaks into that. You've spoken to that a little bit today. But what are some simple things that leaders can do to kind of create that success in this, to bring that joy for their teams?
Um, there's a part of me that wants to say it's what I've already said. Like, it starts with recognizing exactly what it is that you've got in your team. But before that, even, I think you understand what it is that your vision for the ministry is. When I
Mhm.
started the women's ministry at a church I was attending, um, God had given me a vision for how it was gonna work, and it was very discipleship
Yeah.
focused. And I knew I couldn't do it myself, so I was looking for women to join me in my team, on my leadership team, and when I was having coffee with them to see if they were interested, I shared the vision, and I was like, "I see this in you. I don't
Mhm.
even know you that well, but I see this in you, and I'd love to
Yes.
be able to have you part of this journey of creating this vision." And basically providing an opportunity for kingdom building.
Mm.
Um, and not every woman was able to do it, and that's fine. I had
Yeah.
some women that were on the team with me that stuck with it through the whole time that I was serving. And watching them grow was just, man, we talked about it earlier, but I had one young woman that she's like, oh, she's very nervous, and that, she's like, I'll just do all the behind the scenes things. And by the end, I had her leading a small group, and she was enjoying it, even though she was
Yes.
terrified to do it
Mm.
at the end. So I saw that potential in her. So yeah, see the potential, understand your vision, and cast the vision in a way that makes them excited to be able to say, hey, yes, I am on board. I want to do this with you. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go build the kingdom for God's glory and help people feel seen by Jesus.
I love
Mm.
that. And it helps to make things more enjoyable, right? When you are centered around a central vision, a mission that we're
Mm.
all working towards, we're all walking towards together.
Yes.
And, I say fun, like you try to have a good time along the way. I feel like that's such a big part of culture. We're all heading
Mhm.
in the same
Mhm.
direction. Let's do it with a smile on our face, right? Let's
Yes.
remember that it's an exciting thing that we get to be a part of. I think
Mhm.
Mhm.
we're locked into this vision together. We're headed in the same direction. And I think let's just enjoy it the whole way.
Yeah.
Stephanie, this has been awesome. Something that we always like to ask. everyone who comes on our show. We talk a lot about healthy churches, talk about healthy leaders and healthy volunteers. In your opinion, what would you say is one essential component of a healthy church?
I think it's a church that is willing to go through the hard stuff to grow. And by
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, whether as a culture you're willing to go through the hard stuff and evaluate where are the things in our culture that are poisoning things
Mm,
and keeping us from being able to move forward. Um, but then also personally as leaders, are we willing to go through the things in our own lives to do the hard work
Mm,
that's going to
yeah.
remove the poison in our own hearts? So I think without those two, there's no success
yeah.
in life giving ministry.
Mm. Leaves a lot of room for the enemy to do what he do.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's I feel like that's how we end up with a lot of churches that
Yeah.
are very shallow in how
Right.
they approach
Right.
Wow.
teaching or how they approach
Wow.
outreach, because they aren't willing to go deeper and figure out
Yeah.
what's actually healthy and what's not healthy. The entire world is healthy for them, and that's what they want to focus on. So you're right. The enemy loves to blind us
Wow.
and make us believe
Yeah.
lies. So we can't.
Mhm.
We have to identify the lies.
Yeah, it's good.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Be a whole nother episode, right? Stephanie, I love getting to hear your heart for volunteers, and it gets
Mhm.
me inspired today to care for the people in our church even more,
Mhm.
to bring more
Mhm.
passion to my
Mm.
own volunteering. And so thank you for this conversation today. Something we love to do is a final five rapid fire round. Are you up for the challenge as we wrap things up today?
Bring it. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. What is one book on this subject or something similar that you would recommend to church leaders?
The Life Giving Leader by Tyler Reagan.
Okay.
Very cool. I haven't
Not
checked
heard
that
of
one
that
out.
one.
Yeah, I've
Yep.
got to check
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the last thing you listened to on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you stream music?
I was trying to remember the name of the song. I don't remember the name of the song, but I listen to Pandora actually usually, and so it's a
Okay.
contemporary Christian hits station that I was listening to recently. So
Love it.
Nice.
Love it. Okay. What is your favorite piece of technology or software right now?
Canva. I love
I love
Canva.
Canva too, man. Yeah, that's a
So
good one.
helpful. Yep.
It is so helpful. Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me, quote or advice that has stuck with you over the years.
Embrace the gray.
Mm,
I am a black
Oh,
and white person. Um, for very long, everything was either black or it was white, and I had someone
yeah.
challenge me to embrace the gray, and that made me want to punch her in the face because 'cause I'm like, "No." But I'm so glad she challenged me that. So then for the flip side, if you're a gray person, embrace the black and white.
Yeah, there's room for both for sure. I love that. What is one thing you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders?
Keep fighting the good fight,
Mm,
keep looking for where you need to grow. And
mm,
mhm,
as a leader, as a human being, as a Christian, as a father, mother, sister, brother, whatever it
mhm.
is, look for ways to grow. Don't
mm.
stay stuck.
I love it. So good.
This has been a great conversation. I can't wait personally to go back and listen to it all over again. So this has been a pleasure having you talk with us
Ooh.
today, Stephanie. Can you tell us where? I know people are going to want to hear more. Where can they follow you? Where can they stay connected with you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not on Instagram much. I do some stuff there. I'll be honest. I'm kind of that generation where I don't get Instagram fully. I'm trying to. LinkedIn and Facebook is where I do the most. So
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely want to. We'll link those up in the show notes. Are there any other projects or any other things that you'd like to share with us before we jump off here today?
I would just say if anybody is feeling led to support a church plant, the
Mm,
bridgeco.church is the church that I am helping to
Oh,
support
I
right
love
now.
that.
And I think we're about 7 months into this. We're planning to launch officially in mid March, I believe. We're getting ready to start meeting in a building as a soft launch here in a couple of weeks, and we have lots of needs. So if you feel led
Mhm.
to support us, whether through prayer support, most people aren't in the Mansfield, Ohio area, so I don't know that in-person support would be very helpful for a lot of people to get here, but, we could also there's a list of items we need, so if you have questions, "How
Very
can we help
cool.
you?" We'd love to be able to talk to you and see if there's ways 'cause I mean, churches have stuff they get rid of all the time, so why not give it
Yeah,
to somebody that's trying to get started, you know?
that's
That's
good. Yeah,
anyway.
I
that's a
gotta
great
tell you, this
reminder.
that you have the heart of a church planner. That is a church planner if I've ever heard one before, because that is so good. I love that you threw that pitch out there. I'm telling you, it reminds me of the journey that we were on at the beginning of 11 years ago when we started our church plant. So that's awesome. That's so cool. I'm wishing you the very best in that. That is so very cool. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for this conversation today.
Mm,
It's been a good
Mhm.
heart check for me, and I know it
mhm,
has been for our listeners
Mhm.
as well. We'll be sure to link all of the things up in our show notes. And for all of our listeners out there today, if this episode has encouraged you, if it's given you a good reminder today to keep going and to pour the love and support on your volunteers at your church,
mhm,
would you consider sharing this with a friend?
Mhm.
We'd love to get this into as many ears of church leaders as possible, and that helps us to keep equipping and encouraging leaders just like you. Again, hit that follow, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching along today. And until next time, we would say just keep leading well right there in your community, and we will see you right back here next week on Church Leadership Lab.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.